Nigeria is Africa's largest economy with a GDP of over 400 billion US dollars, and with approximately 184 million inhabitants, the country accounts for 47% of West Africa's population. With an abundance of natural resources, Nigeria, Africa's biggest oil exporter, also has the largest natural gas reserves on the continent. However, significant challenges remain, especially at subnational levels of government. A sharp decline in crude oil prices and poor management of resources has left both federal and state governments with significant shortfalls in revenues needed to deliver basic services. Although the current administration has a 10-point economic blueprint that is targeted at improving governance and building a competitive economy, only effective and efficient use of our resources will make this aspiration a reality. For over a decade, successive governments have made some strides in promoting transparency and accountability. First, in 2007, procurement and fiscal responsibility legislations were enacted by the federal government. Even though the implementation of the procurement law was slow, the concept and practice of due process and competition were introduced in the award of public contracts. Several states in Nigeria have followed this path, with these laws now replicated in about 29 states. To address the challenges facing her public sector, several states in Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Finance, approached the World Bank for support, and in 2012, the Nigeria Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project (PSGRDP) was birthed, with the aim of strengthening governance by improving accountability and transparency in public finance and human resource management systems.
First of all, the bank had traditionally engaged at the federal level, but with the realization that almost 50% of public expenditure also happens at the state level, and that if you look at the constitution of the federation, the responsibilities for the basic services, service delivery to the people, are actually the responsibilities of the states and the local governments. It became necessary to also support the states to improve on their public financial management practices, generally to ensure that whatever is happening at the federal level gets enough complements at the state level. Otherwise, tackling just the federal government, federal level, does not really address the gaps in the society. So one area we discovered was that services were not being delivered. And we then the bank felt that the only way to help Nigeria improve on service delivery was also to ensure that we give support to the states to improve on their public financial management practices, to ensure that the resources are available at the state and local government level gets to the front lines in delivering services to the people.
With the support of the World Bank-assisted Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project, state governments received aid and technical assistance to enhance and sustain reforms in their public sector institutions and financial management practices. The project is made up of three major components: development and modernization of public financial management systems, human resource management and capacity development, and development of state monitoring and evaluation systems. The Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project is currently being implemented in 11 states across the Federation. They include Bauchi, Kaduna, Kogi, Ondo, Abia, Adamawa, Ekiti, Imo, Kebbi, Niger, and Plateau states. And some of these states have recorded remarkable success in several components of the project, especially in the public financial management component. One of the key aspects of the PFM component is public procurement. Since budget execution is substantially public procurement, which is a central function of government, setting up a transparent procurement system was imperative in order to guarantee good returns on government investments.
If you look at what happens in government, 98% of budget execution is procurement. So if you're not procuring right, there'll be a lot of leakage, there'll be a lot of waste, and then there'll be a lot of inefficiencies in procurement.
It's not as if government was not doing, we were not procuring before, but there was no standardized document, standardized way of doing it. Transparency, competitiveness, economy, fairness, simply because we do not have a procurement law. So that was the kind of situation we were having before now.
Kogi State took the cue and with the support of the project, established a Bureau for Public Procurement. This is the first time in the state history that an independent agency will be tasked with the responsibility of handling all procurement-related matters.
With the coming of the Bureau of Public Procurement, now it led to the harmonization of all public procurement activities in the state. So before now, there was a central body that was responsible for public procurement in the state once it's above the threshold, and that is the State Tenders Board. But now with the coming of Bureau of Public Procurement, there is now harmonization of all public procurement activities. There is a reporting line now, and then it led to the decentralization of all public procurement activities in the state, with the ministries, departments, and agencies establishing their own tenders board, of course with an approved threshold. And the capacity of the civil servants in the state are built so that even after the political office holders have left, with the building of their capacity, knowledge, capacity is retained within the system. So the whole essence is to add value to the public procurement system in the state.
If you ask anybody in the state today, mostly people from that Bureau for Public Procurement, they say that BPP is a child of the public sector and development project. Why? The project felt that it's better we have a procedure. One, to have value for money. Secondly, to be transparent in the way we do things. Thirdly, so that those facilities that are provided for the people can last long.
Another essential focus area of the public financial management component is internally generated revenue, IGR. Here, the project assisted in the area of capacity building for boosting the revenue generation effort of each participating state, especially in the light of dwindling oil prices and inadequate allocation from the federal purse. In Kogi State, for example, the State Internal Revenue Board was under the Ministry of Finance, an arrangement that came with a lot of red tape, which consequently slowed down the state's revenue drive. With the assistance of PSGRDP, a fully independent and autonomous tax bureau has been established to focus on more effective revenue generation for the state.
Before the intervention of the project, there was no database as regards who is paying what. So it is like whoever walks in to pay, that's what we have. And where they pay, they may not pay the exact amount, and the number of people paying, the record is not there because there was no database to compare how well you're doing. But the intervention of the project led to a survey or a data gathering or an enumeration that brought about a database. Over 400,000 taxpayers were identified in that exercise. And that's what is leading to the IGR, a growth in IGR.
Prior to the coming of this project, the internal revenue generation effort was about 400 million a year. But with the coming of this project and the partnership between the project and the Kogi Internal Revenue Service, we have been able to restructure the Internal Revenue Service and help build the capacity of the Internal Revenue Service to generate more revenue to the extent that presently we are talking about more than $1 billion. It used to be 400, but we make now more than $1 billion.
Kaduna State also shares a similar IGR success story. With the support of the Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project, Kaduna has modernized and updated its tax administration process and exponentially increased its internal revenue earnings.
Before the advent of this intervention, resources to support the work of the institution was coming only from government. Now, apart from what is coming from government, assistance is coming from the World Bank to provide the shortfall for whatever has been required that cannot be provided fully by the government. They also guide us because they come up with innovations, new ways of doing things. Before the advent of this intervention, the state was making an average of 800 to 900 million per month. That is total IGR, tax and other revenues. But in 2016, we have consistently maintained an average of 1.5 to 1.7 billion per month. So you see, to a large extent, it has assisted to put us on the right pedestal.
The second key component of the public sector governance reform and development project is development of state monitoring and evaluation systems. Under this component, Kaduna State has developed a monitoring and evaluation system called the Eyes and Ears Project. This groundbreaking initiative is the first of its kind in Africa. It incorporates the active participation of residents to monitor and report on the progress of government projects in the state. This has greatly promoted accountability and transparency on the execution of government projects in Kaduna State.
Today, Kaduna, I'm sure you've seen the Eyes and Ears project. Today it's being replicated in Ondo because it's been a success. It's able to tag every public investment in the state. It provides opportunities for citizen engagement, citizen feedback to government on what is happening.
I think that over the last few years, what governments have missed is the desire of the average citizen of Nigeria not just to be a beneficiary of government interventions, but to be part and parcel of that decision-making process, to be carried along at every step and every milestone. People don't just want to see a road anymore. They want to understand the process by which the government awarded that road and the quality of the contractor that was given, and then a day-to-day update about how that project is progressing. What we have tried to do within this project is to ensure that we carry our citizens along as much as possible, right from formulation stage all the way to evaluation. So that is the first part of transparency, including the people.
Right here, as you can see, this is a Rigasa dualization of roads. And actually, when we come to the site, normally what we normally do is to snap the picture to check whether the contractor is at the site or not, and we send it. We snap the picture, we comment, we comment on the level of the completion, quality, and then we send it to the application. And immediately when we send, automatically 3 people receive it at the same time, which is the governor, the deputy governor, and the Speaker of State House of Assembly. That's how they get the information immediately. As we are sending it, they are seeing exactly what is happening. So they can, at least if there's any problem, they can even go ahead and take any action or call the contractor to order immediately, or call the ministry that's supposed to supervise that particular project to order that, okay, maybe this particular project, there's a slow in the movement of the project, or maybe the timeline is not responding well. So they can actually talk to the contractor or the ministry to go ahead and summon the contractor to sit up.
Although participating states have begun to record different levels of success under the project, an important factor that will ensure the sustainability of the project is the legal framework within which all the innovation being introduced through the project could operate and thrive. Here, Ondo State has been truly remarkable. While other states and even the federal government strive with outdated and obsolete legislation, Ondo State, with the help of the Public Sector Governance Reforms and Development Project, has replaced the old legal framework with legislations that has institutionalized public sector reforms. The Public Financial Management Law is an example.
Legislation is very important because it provides the bedrock for doing government business, and it institutionalizes things. It removes discretion and makes things to be exact so that everybody knows what is to be done as at what time and so on. We had a law, the Public Administration Law, but it's an anachronistic law which dates back to the Western state or maybe even Western region, with little review. But things have changed over time. Procurement have branched out, and public financial management had become even more intensive, audits have changed and so on, but we still had that law. So with the coming of the Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project, it brought about a positive change to make us to modernize our legislations, to modernize our systems, to modernize the body of knowledge that is available in the state. Then as for procurement, there was a very scant provision for that under the Public Administration Law. And for the budgeting aspect, there was also scant provision under the Public Administration Law. But under this new system now, we have pulled them out. So we now have a public financial management law that deals with it's an organic law coming from the budgeting aspect, going on to disbursement of funds and so on. So it makes it holistic and it makes it comprehensive, and it has brought it up to the modern requirements, the standards, the IPSA standards, that's the International Public Sector Accounting System standards. Then there's also a Public Procurement Act which focuses on procurement. There's hardly anything you do that you will not need to procure, and therefore there is the need to have a legislation that covers that, and that's what the Public Procurement Act has done.
In addition, Ondo State has also reviewed its auditing process to the effect that the law was enacted to make the Auditor General's office fully independent. This was done in order to eradicate any conflict of interest with the state's Ministry of Finance.
The very first challenge we had was that we needed a law that reflects current realities as regards the audit institution in the state and reflecting the current environment in which we operate. A lot of changes have taken place generally in terms of governance practices, in terms of use of technology in governance, and a lot of other things. And the law that we've been using was the law we inherited from the colonial government, the Audit Ordinance of 1956. Of course, between you and me, that is an outdated law. So one of the very first challenges we had was that we needed a law that will regulate the activities of this office. Financially, we're not enjoying any autonomy before now. The same institution that we are auditing, we have to go to them virtually begging for money in order for us to do our job. And of course, it's just rational that they might not be forthcoming to release enough money for us to be able to do the job effectively. These were areas that we needed to address. And what we're trying to look at was that we should have an audit service commission that will be devoted exclusively, to this personnel of the Office of the Auditor General. The reality of having a new law dawned on us about 9 years ago when I came here, and immediately we started to make efforts to get a new law. We even got a consultant, particularly under a UNDP project, to have an initial draft of that law. And we did public hearing to receive input from members of the public. But along the line, the process was curtailed. But when the State Governance Reform and Development Project came on board, and our office had the opportunity, to be one of the activity executing agencies under that project, one of the very first things that we put as our own component is getting a new audit law for the state. And we were happy that this was admitted by the World Bank. And the process started in earnest. And just early August, the bill was passed into law.
On the issue of legislation, apart from Ondo State, 10 other states on this project have passed the fiscal responsibility and public procurement laws. Niger State has also passed the Organic Public Finance Law and Audit Law. One central thread that ties all the components of the Public Sector Governance Reforms and Development Project is the deployment of the State Integrated Financial Management System, SIFMIS. SIFMIS is an ICT-based system which automates several aspects of public finance management and governance, such as budgeting, human resources, and even payroll. This is how it works.
SIFMIS as a tool for eliminating corruption and instituting transparency and accountability in the system, I think has no equal. You have closed all gaps, eliminated as much as possible human interfaces, and therefore you're able to get results. You budget properly, because if you are implementing the receivable module like we're implementing in Kogi State, that's account receivable, it means through systems you're able to track all the resources that are supposed to come in. That is going to include the TSA, the Treasury Single Account. It means the loopholes for, where wastages were being perpetrated, where funds were being lost, would have been blocked.
Now, in that sense, the workings of SIFMIS to a large extent coordinate every other component of the project. Now, if you talk of public financial management, now SIFMIS is in the core. SIFMIS is the life wire of the project.
So the SIFMIS project guarantees accountability and transparency. And one thing in managing corruption is if all eyes are on funds, then it becomes very difficult for one or two individuals to siphon away. And this is what SIFMIS guarantees.
Although SIFMIS is open to all participating states, only Kaduna, Ondo, Kogi, Plateau and Ekiti states were able to take advantage and now have SIFMIS operational on different scales. And because it is vital to the success of the project, public sector workers are now being trained in the use of ICT. This will enable them to be fully absorbed into the new ICT environment that SIFMIS requires.
Before now, I used to practice a little of computer, but now with the training, I'm very good at it. Learning this computer will help me in my official work. As an accountant, I can input some data that will be easier for me than before.
The important is very great, because at the initial stage, most of us, like someone like me, I have knowledge about computer, but the one I'm added to today is a great one.
The government wanted to have an institute in the circumstance that there's paucity of funds. But we got encouraged when there was this collaboration, and we put the structure in place, and the governance project is helping in the area of furniture, a lot of equipment, teaching, learning aids. They've been brought here, and of course we're talking of something almost over, I think by now they should be getting to almost 100 million naira worth of furniture items, teaching, learning equipment, and so on and so forth. And that's quite substantial. That could have frustrated the project if it were not there.
The Public Sector Governance Reforms and Development Project is ushering a new dawn into Nigeria's public sector space. However, despite the successes, there is still work to be done. A system that has come to drastically reduce corruption in the public sector will meet stiff resistance. Therefore, everyone that wants to see positive change must play his or her part to ensure that Nigerians get the best that good governance can offer.
If you look at the changes we've managed to get across most states, at least the focus on more efficient way of budgeting, for me, it gives me a lot of satisfaction. And then you talk about accounting. We just talked about a state where for 13 years, no financial statements were prepared. Today, we're working with states to deliver the Auditor General's report to the legislature within 6 months from the end of the financial year. The efficiency this has brought in, proper accounting and transparency has made it possible for people to realize that it's no longer business as usual. In totality, overall, changing mindsets on how government can be efficient, for me, is a major high point.
I mean, this is a $7 million project that started in 2012. We came in 2015, and when we came in, less than 20% of the project had been achieved. But over the past 2 years, we've, with His Excellency, the Governor's support and help, and support of the, our colleagues from the World Bank, right from the country director to the task team leaders, to the team leads all across, they've been very supportive of Kaduna State. We've been able to ramp up implementation of the project to the point where Kaduna State is now saying, look, we want to be able to take on much more. So we're quite happy with what we've achieved with the project. We're looking forward to working more with the World Bank on more projects because our goals are shared. What we want to do as a government is to deliver efficient services to our people. What the World Bank wants to do worldwide, globally, is to eradicate poverty and improve governance all across. So I think we are connected and we want to be able to work together to achieve some of the ideals of both our organizations.
In terms of sustainability, for instance, the database, the enumeration done, taxpayers' address and their phone numbers. They already identified taxpayers. Nobody will come to the leadership of KJRS and want to jettison that because you need taxpayers, identified taxpayers to pay the tax. Forever, the project cannot be forgotten because of what they have done in terms of, it's not even the logistics, in terms of that enumeration, where you are living in an environment, anybody who wishes to pay tax, who understands it, there's a lot that has been done by the project that will be sustained, especially in the tax administration and the automation of our processes.
For far too long, the narrative has been that Nigeria does not have good leaders or is incapable of good governance. However, good governance is not only possible but achievable, and it can become the norm. It can be people-oriented, transparent, and accountable. Citizens can engage with those in positions of power constructively and without fear. Yes, there are challenges, but they are surmountable. And with intervention programs like the Public Sector Governance Reforms and Development Projects, states can get the help they need to overcome these challenges. At the end of the day, Nigerians would have improved access to basic services, better infrastructure, more effective laws, and stronger institutions.